The distribution of relief materials to the victims of Jajarkot earthquake has received massive flack, as many of the victims have poured grievance of either not receiving support or having to witness an unfair distribution based on access to power and politics. The dip in temperature as winter approaches has also added more health problems, as many are still compelled to spend their nights with no roofs over their head. This calls on the government to ensure immediate and fair distribution of support materials to assure that the state is for the people and that the people matter. Good evening, I'm Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. The onset of winter adds to the plight of earthquake victims in Jajarkot and Rukum West. Children, lactating mothers and elderly most affected. Relief distribution remains sluggish. Chairperson of the National Assembly calls on the government to find consensus with victims to conclude transitional justice process. Says pardons must not be granted to those convicted of serious crimes. Top diplomats from the G7 call for humanitarian pauses in Gaza but support Israel's right to self-defense. 15,000 civilians flee Gaza in one day as Israeli forces move in. And Manchester United see Copenhagen tonight at the Champions League. A win must for the Red Devils to keep their hopes of entering the knockout stage alive. Earthquake victims of the affected districts Jajarkot, Rukum West and Salyan have started falling sick as they have been compelled to spend chilly nights under the open sky. Children, lactating women and senior citizens have been the most affected. Health professionals involved in their treatment have said that they are prone to flu and pneumonia. Likewise, there are risks of spread of dysentery and cholera amid absence of safe drinking water and toilets. Meanwhile, survivors have complained that they have not received relief as of yet and have been compelled to spend the nights under the open sky during cold winter. Relief materials have been distributed through the local government in Jajarkot and Rukum West. The District Administration Office, Jajarkot, has said that relief materials have been distributed to victims of all 7 local levels. 108 relief materials, including rice, lentils, tents and blankets, have been distributed to the victims in Bheri, Nalgad and Chedagad municipalities and Kushe, Barekot, Junichade and Shivalaya rural municipalities in the first phase. However, many others have shared grievances, saying that distribution of relief has been limited to those with access to power. Difficulty in distribution of relief has been reported due to the provision which requires recommendation by landlords of the victims. Relief sent by the government of China for the earthquake victims of Jajarkot and Rukum West is to be sent to the affected districts through Pokhara. Chinese ambassador to Nepal, Chen Song, has handed over the relief brought to the Pokhara airport in 2 special aircrafts of the Chinese army earlier this morning to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Home Affairs Narayan Kaji Shrestha. Receiving the relief materials, Deputy Prime Minister Shrestha appreciated China's contributions during adversities in Nepal. Hearing on the writ against the Kathmandu District Court's order for judicial custody against 22 arrested in the fake Bhutanese refugee scam is slated for tomorrow. Former Deputy Prime Minister Top Bahadur Raimachi, former Minister for Home Affairs Balkrishna Khand, Secretary Tek Narayan Pandey, among others, alleged of involvement in the fake Bhutanese refugee scam, had filed a writ against the order of the Kathmandu District Court at the Patan High Court. On the 16th of June, the Kathmandu District Court had issued an order for judicial custody of those alleged of involvement in the scam. Those alleged had then filed a writ against the order on the 28th of July. However, hearing had then postponed on several occasions on different pretexts. Meanwhile, the Kathmandu District Court has set a hearing on the case against cricketer Sandeep Lamishane, who is alleged of raping a minor, for tomorrow. The hearing on the writ filed against the government's decision of granting pardon to jail a Nagarik Unmukti Party's founder Resham Chaudhary is to begin from tomorrow. The final hearing will take place tomorrow on the writ petition filed by Sharada Kadayat, the wife of Police Inspector Keshav Bohra, who was killed in the Chitrakar incident. Chaudhary's jail term was pardoned on the occasion of Republic Day this year. The Supreme Court had earlier upheld the decision by lower courts to imprison Resham Chaudhary for his involvement in the Chitrakar massacre. However, he was granted pardon even before the detailed report of the verdict was released, which later on revealed that the apex court had asserted it would be wrong to politicize crimes and grant pardon in such cases as such. Kadayat filed her writ petition on the 30th of May demanding for scrapping of the pardon and to make Chaudhary serve a full sentence in prison. The Office of the President, the Council of Ministers, Home Ministry and Resham Chaudhary are the defendants. Chairperson of the National Assembly, Ganesh Prasad Timalsina, has said that a consensus must be reached among political parties as well as the victims and human rights activists to conclude the issue of transitional justice. Speaking during a program organized in Kathmandu earlier today, National Assembly Chair Timalsina condemned political parties for failing to conclude the bill related to transitional justice despite holding relentless parleys. He also said that those involved in heinous crimes must not be granted pardons. Political parties have formed a subcommittee at the Law Committee to conclude the bill related to transitional justice. However, they have failed to find a consensus on major issues. Works of the third phase of Jayanagar-Bardivas Railway, which is being constructed with the support of the Government of India, are to begin soon. According to Engineer of Rail Department, Janakpur Office, Binod Ojha, track is to be constructed from Bhangaha of Mahottari to Bardivas. The department has already issued a notice urging the farmers to harvest their crops planted on the land that fall in the path of the track by the 1st of December. The department has added that works related to compensation for the land that falls on the track of the railway in the Bhangaha Bijalpura Bardivas section and the East-West Electric Railway are in the final phase. According to the department, compensation will not be paid if the crops are not harvested by the 1st of December. Works are being carried out in 3 phases for the operation of 69-kilometer railway from Jayanagar to India. In fact, Jayanagar of India to Bardivas of Mahottari. Railway is already in operation from Jayanagar to Kurtha under the first phase and Kurtha to Bhangaha under the second phase. Construction of 17-kilometer section between Bhangaha to Bardivas is to begin under the third phase. 40% tax imposed by India and up to 15% tax added by Nepal has increased the price of potatoes, onions and garlic. Potatoes were available at 30 rupees per kilo in Birganj until 2 weeks ago. However, the prices has now increased to 50 rupees. Price of onion previously available at 50 rupees per kilo has now doubled, while garlic previously available at 100 rupees per kilogram has now reached 300 rupees. Consumers have alleged traders of increasing the price during festivities. Meanwhile, traders have claimed that the price has increased because of the taxes imposed by both India and Nepal. Custom officials have said that taxes have been increased by almost 54% by Nepal and India, which has led to the price hike. Traders have said that price of onion and garlic among other vegetables could increase further because of rise in taxes. Nepal Electricity Authority Sankha Sabha has started disconnecting power of consumers and government administrations around the district headquarters and Chainpur market area that have not cleared their dues. According to the head of Khandbari Distribution Center, Satrudhan Yadav, the NEA has started disconnecting power as 225 consumers have yet to clear around 7.5 million rupees. Likewise, the NEA has said that 58 government administrations in the district have yet to clear dues of 750,000 rupees. Some have started clearing their dues as the NEA has started cutting power amid the nearing Tihar festival, which is also considered the festival of lights. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where it texts us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question: what should be done to control the trend of exploiting state coffers in the name of keeping personal secretaries? The options are A. Clear criteria, B. Honesty from leadership, and C. Tighten monitoring. Voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. Numerous bodies were laid out at the entrance to Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City today as Israel's bombardment of the densely populated Palestinian enclave continued and its ground forces encircled the city. Mourners were seen wailing in anguish while bodies of the injured were being carried towards the hospital entrance on stretchers and on the back of donkey carts. Al-Shifa, the main hospital in Gaza City, has turned into a giant refuge for people whose homes have been bombarded or who fear that they will be in Israel's military assault on the Gaza Strip, which is entering its second month. Health officials in Hamas-ruled Gaza said Israel's bombardment over the past month has killed more than 10,000 Palestinians, around 40% of them children, since October 7, when Hamas militants stormed into Israel, killing some 1,400 people and taking about 240 people hostage. G7 foreign ministers issued a unified message today on the Israel-Hamas war, including a call for a humanitarian pause in the fighting. Japan's top diplomat said, even as Israeli forces continue to strike the Gaza Strip. Winding up a two-day meeting in Tokyo, the group of 7 wealthy nations said in a joint statement that Israel had the right to defend itself while underscoring the need to protect civilians and to comply with international humanitarian law. It was only the second joint statement from the G7 since gunmen from the Palestinian militant group Hamas sparked the conflict with an October 7 attack on southern Israel. The communique also reiterated G7 support for Ukraine in its war with Russia, highlighted the need for engagement with China over shared concerns and condemned North Korea's missile test and arms transfers to Russia. Meanwhile, U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken, during a news conference after the G7 foreign ministers meeting, said Gaza cannot continue to be run by Hamas and Israel cannot occupy Gaza. The Israeli military has said airstrikes on the Gaza Strip killed a top Hamas weapons maker and several fighters as its air and ground offensive targeted the militants' vast tunnel network beneath the besieged Palestinian enclave. Gaza City, the Hamas militant group's main stronghold in the territory, is encircled by Israeli forces. The military said troops have advanced to the heart of the densely populated city, while Hamas says its fighters have inflicted heavy losses. The Israeli military statement said 2 separate strikes eliminated a leading Hamas armorer, Mohsen Abu Zina, and fighters engaged in anti-tank or ground-to-ground rocket fire. Palestinian media also reported clashes between militants and Israeli forces near Al-Shati Beach, a refugee camp in Gaza City. Meanwhile, Israel says 32 of its soldiers have been killed. Israeli tanks have encountered heavy resistance from Hamas fighters using the tunnels to launch ambushes. Many garment workers have lost their jobs in Bangladesh, and 1 woman was killed during a demonstration by garment workers for more pay, which turned violent today. The latest death was the 3rd since protests erupted in the past week. Yesterday, the government said that the minimum wage would rise by 56.25% to 12,500 taka a month from December 1, the first increase in 5 years, but the workers are demanding almost twice the amount offered. A panel of factory owners, union leaders and officials agreed to the increase unanimously, said Chitrakar Rahman, the owner's representative. Low wages have helped Bangladesh become the world's largest garment exporter after China, but soaring fuel and power prices have added to the spiraling cost of living for people in this developing South Asian nation. Cambodia has deported 25 Japanese nationals suspected of involvement in online scams to Japan. The Japanese nationals, all male, were arrested in an apartment in Phnom Penh in the middle of September, according to local media. A Cambodian police spokesperson said they were in immigration police custody until their deportation and would be sent to Japan via Malaysia. The arrest warrants were issued as requested by the Japanese embassy after their residence had been targeted by the scam operation. Authorities in Pakistan have closed schools and markets this week in the nation's most populous province due to air pollution. In Lahore, air quality was the worst in the world on Wednesday, according to Swiss group IQ Air, with the air quality index at a hazardous 432, followed by India's capital Delhi at 302 and the southern Pakistani port city of Karachi at 204. The smog in Lahore reduced visibility on the roads, and many residents like Muhammad Faizan who worry about health threats. Rising air pollution can cut life expectancy by more than 5 years per person in South Asia, one of the world's most polluted regions, according to a report published in August, which flagged the growing burden of hazardous air on health. Majority Portuguese are left in shock following the resignation of Prime Minister Antonio Costa amid a corruption probe over alleged corruption in multi-billion-dollar lithium, green hydrogen and data center deals. Costa, who has denied involvement in the scandal, brought to an end his 8-year premiership, during which he endeared Portugal, once seen as the sick man of Europe, to investors and EU peers who saw it as a haven for fiscal stability. Before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Cold temperature adds to the plight of earthquake victims in Jadarkot and Rukum West. Children, lactating mothers and elderly most affected. Relief distribution remains sluggish. Chairperson of the National Assembly calls on the government to find consensus with victims to conclude transitional justice process. Says pardons must not be granted to those convicted of serious crimes. Top diplomats from the G7 call for humanitarian pauses in Gaza but support Israel's right to self-defense. 15,000 civilians flee Gaza in one day as Israeli forces move in. And Manchester United see Copenhagen tonight at the Champions League. A win must for the Red Devils to keep their hopes of entering the knockout stage alive. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.